Hello, everyone, and welcome to Get in Tune. I am Michael Gracia, and I have a great show planned for tonight. Um, but before we get started, as usual, where is it? Right down there at the Wiz Comic on both Instagram and Facebook. New Wiz strip up today. Go check it out. Um, I have a really, really great guest on tonight. Now, in the past, I believe it was sometime last year, I'd really have to look. I had um, the founders, Gary and Chris of Big Bang Comics on. I even did a live stream earlier this year where I drew both Ultiman and the Night Watchman, two characters from the Big Bang Comics. And you guys know I am a fan. There's currently a Kickstarter going on um, for it's the treasury-sized 40th anniversary anthology tribute to Big Bang Comics. And my guest tonight is running the Kickstarter for it. His name is Michael Fitzgerald Troy. Had a chance to talk to him backstage. Really nice guy. I can't wait to bring him on and learn more about him. So why wait? Let's bring on Michael Fitzgerald Troy, and let's talk about Big Bang. Hello.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here.
Anytime.
Super excited to talk about my project.
I am so glad to have you here and to also discuss your project because I'll tell a short story. I know I told it when Gary and Chris were on, and I probably told it on the live stream I did when I was drawing their characters. I found Big Bang Comics in the 90s. It was hard to find for me. They were at a local comic shop in White Plains, New York, I used to go to. And I every time I saw a book there, I would buy it. And then one day, the woman who was running the store gave away the ending to a different book. Like I was following whatever, it was the 90s. So Marvel or DC always had these tie-ins and long, story arcs going. And I had the book and I paid for it. And as I was leaving, she told me the ending of the story. And that was the last day I went into that store. And that was the last time I saw Big Bang Comics in stores for years. And it took me until I found like some back issues at shows and, other things like finding them in bins and stuff that I started collecting them again. I've been a fan of the characters and of the stories for a very long time. Now, that's enough about me. This show is about you and your project. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into comics, the whole secret origin, if you will?
Sure, but I'd like to say, dear woman who stalled your Big Bang Comics collecting career, rot in hell. No, I'm just kidding. My name is Michael Fitzgerald Troy. I'm a pop culture cartoonist, artist. I'm an actor. I'm a stand-up comic. I'm a lifelong comics fan. My brother got me into comics. The girl down the street used to sell him comics for like 2, 3, 4 cents, mostly without the covers. Back in the day, you could get comics at like newsstands at like 7-Eleven and the grocery store and stuff. And if they didn't sell them, the retailer, the grocery store, whoever would rip off the cover and send the cover back to to Marvel and DC for credit on the unsold issue. But then you have these like coverless comics that I don't know, like if your uncle works at 7-Eleven and they were going to throw them out, then he could repurpose them and somebody like our neighbor in the neighborhood could sell them to us. And I just fell in love with the art. I like I'm an artist at heart. I've been drawing since I could pick up a Crayola, and I just really loved comic book art. I had a huge love of like Wonder Woman and Linda Carter in that show, so that was another like gateway for comic books to me. Christopher Reeve's Superman is another like thing that is like big in my heart. The comic books taught me how to read. They taught me how to draw. I just have always loved them. Growing up with my brother, he was a big comic book fan and a big influence on me. We would spend our summer vacations in our bedroom making up our own comics together. And, they've just always been part of my life. I love comic books. And luckily, like, this is my big love letter to comic books. And so I'm so happy to, like, be able to sort of bring my love of comics to people through Big Bang Comics.
That's fantastic. And you work on your own comics though, correct?
I mean, I've self-published comics.
Yeah.
I wrote several comics for Blue Water Comics. I forget when, but a long time now. Mostly biographical comics.
Okay.
One of my big infamy things for them was writing and drawing a Honey Boo Boo comic book, which I have to feel will be a great big collector's item one day. I self-published a Lady Gaga tribute comic book that she actually tweeted about, so that's another feather in my cap I am proud of. I self-published a comic called The Blonde Squad. I in the early 2000s, I was an inking assistant at Top Cow Productions for Bat. And so I've sort of always had my hand in comic books in one way or another. But, I feel like I'm like Big Bang Comics. You know what I mean? I feel like it's kind of the best kept secret. Like, it's sort of like this force in comic books. Like, they've been publishing indie comics for 40 years plus. And I've been right there beside them, silently doing my own thing in comics, noticed or unnoticed, but still a force nonetheless.
And so about Big Bang Comics, what when did you start getting into Big Bang? Like, I told you how I discovered them in the 90s, and I'll tell you right now, I still buy things off their Indie Planet site. How did you get how did you get involved? Well, not involved with the project yet. We'll talk about that, but involved with collecting Big Bang or getting into them.
Well, I feel like I'm peripherally a Big Bang fan for like the longest time. I want to say like my first real recollection or knowledge of being a fan of like their output and what they do is the Vanguard series that Gary Carlson wrote with Eric Larson for Big Bang in the early 90s. Big Bang had like a life at Image in the 90s. Before that they were self-published in the 80s via Megaton, the comics that sort of had the first appearances of Savage Dragon and Youngblood, leading Eric Larson, or not Eric Larson, but Rob Liefeld to coin Gary Carlson the grandfather of Image Comics, a name that he sort of happily carries to this day. So I feel like, I've been quasi-aware of Big Bang, whether I was an active fan or collector or not. Like Vanguard is probably the first big introduction to that universe for me.
Yeah.
But, as a Savage Dragon fan, I've been aware that Graphic Fantasy and Megaton were sort of early appearances of Dragon, so I've always sort of had my eye on that. But like I said, I just think that Big Bang Comics is sort of like the best kept secret in comics. Like, they're, superhero sort of homages in a way to the silver and golden age of DC and Marvel Comics that founder Gary Carlson and his publishing partner Chris Ecker, sort of are paying tribute to comics by making the comics that they want to read. And that was like a big influence on the whole, anthology that we're working on right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting that, because they let me look here just to get it correct. They have a tagline on their website. Remember when comic books are fun? We do. And the era that I started collecting in '89 comics, I was 13 years old. but you know, you always go back and you find the older comics, and I was I've always been a big Superman fan, um, and I love the old Superboy comics, you know, um, and then you know I'm a Justice Society fan, like really big JSA fan, and I really got into the Teen Titans and all this stuff. I'm more of a DC guy than Marvel, obviously, but anyway, what I'm saying is I started collecting older books and looking at, and I liked them. And then when I found Big Bang, that was the feeling I got. That's why I always, every time I saw them in the shop, I would, if I didn't have the book, I picked it up. You know, it was because, and I don't, you know, I mean, everybody's era will say they were fun for them. You know, I talked to a lot of people who love 90s books, and I wasn't the big fan in the 90s, you know, with all the darkness that they had. But these books, the Big Bang to me, books were books that kind of gave me the kept my interest in the storytelling and the fun that I felt like it was reading an old, you know, Teen Titans or JSA or Super, you know what I mean? So like for me, that's what it was. You know, those I can't say I remember when comics were fun because I didn't read them in the '60s. I wasn't around, you know. But when they do an homage to the '60s storytelling, I just really enjoy it. You know.
Yeah, it's like you know, on my own YouTube channel, I've done a lot of interviews with creators, and I've done a lot of reviews of old comic books. You know, I like my first issue of Uncanny X-Men was 163, like the one where Kitty Pryde is like fighting the Brood, and it's very much a rip off of Aliens. So I'm getting like the last issue of 2 issues of Dave Cockrum, and then we're moving into Paul Smith. So I've never experienced like the John Byrne X-Men at this time, and this is like my introduction to the X-Men. But then I'm like so like blown away, like I'm quickly collecting like the Byrne stuff. And so this is kind of like my introduction to comics, which I feel is sort of like the next generation past like Kirby and Buscema and you know Romita Senior and stuff like that. So that stuff kind of looks like old and ugly to me. You know what I mean? Like I'm excited about like John Byrne and Art Adams and George Perez and like these, you know, Bill Sienkiewicz and just like these kinds of artists. So when I'm initially introduced to like Big Bang Comics, they're going for this sort of Kirby, Buscema, Romita sort of like nostalgia flair, and I'm like, oh, those are like kind of boring comics to me. You know what I mean? But now that I'm a more seasoned sort of like learned comic fan, like I'm kind of like there are 2 schools, like the people who like immediately worship Kirby because they were introduced to him, and then the people like me who like are introduced to comics through like people like John Byrne, and we see Kirby and think it's like ugly and blocky and gross and horrifying. And now, like now that I'm woke as far as comic book art goes, I see what a genius Kirby is, and like I voraciously love everything he does. So given that angle, like Big Bang is so much more appealing to me now in this stage of my comic career or comic collecting appetite, because I have such a big appreciation, like because of these like Marvel facsimile issues and like reprints and stuff. Like I'm being introduced to like comics I've never read initially before, like Avengers 1 and like Hulk 181, the introduction of Wolverine, and I'm like, yeah, a new Herb Trimpe fan all of a sudden. And you got all these great like Big Bang comics that not only homage like sort of the stories and the characters, but they're giving you like the flavor of the art. Like there's this like sort of Green Lantern character called Beacon, and it's almost drawn in like Gil Kane style. It's this like the Big Bang like history and universe is like so multi-layered and so beautiful and rich and lush, and like the gift that keeps giving. Like even if I weren't doing this project that I'm here to push, I've just fallen in love with the Big Bang universe and would be a fan of either way. You know what I mean? I was a fan before, but I think that now that I've like really scratched the surface and gotten into it, I see how freaking awesome it is, really.
I actually sometimes go to their website, excuse me, just for inspiration when I'm drawing for myself. I look at their characters. Um, you know, to me, I mean, I said it before, they're just fun. I like that type of stuff. When I draw, I'm a little more retro in my style. So looking at this stuff just really just inspires me to draw these types of characters. Uh, you know, I'm looking at stuff and I love everything. I love it all here. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the website right now. But let's talk about the Kickstarter you have, which, by the way, is, I mean, you're doing great. It's almost funded, and you've been out for what, 15 days now, 16 days?
We're like halfway there and like
Yeah.
86% funded. So
Hmm.
like I'm so happy. Like on one hand I'm like majorly happy, and but on the other hand I'm like, I feel like we should have been funded within the first hour. Like we have so many great things going on about this. Like we have like a cover by Jim Rugg. We
Hmm.
have a chase cover by the amazing Carrie Callan. It's funny because one of my artists, Sam J. Royale, of like who's become an amazing friend of mine, and who has done this amazing like 4-page Shutterbug story, who is like sort of Big Bang's version of Spider-Man,
Hmm.
but instead of being like a news photographer, he's a paparazzi photographer, and that's just like one of the many like amazing things about Big Bang. But like just to go off on a tangent, like his inspiration for his story was just sort of because in a way like Big Bang is a very like homage kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like they have like Ultiman and Night Watchman who are like homages to Superman and Batman, but there's so much more than that, right?
Yeah.
So Sam took this Shutterbug character who is an homage to Spider-Man and decided to fulfill one of his lifelong dreams of like paying homage to the psychedelic Spider-Man cartoon from the 60s with all the great sort of like rudimentary animation, but with all
Hmm.
these like trippy backgrounds and stuff. So like I'm just continually being blown away by the inspiration and the output and the A game that like all the creators are bringing to this project. Like it is so much fun, you know. Uh, Big Bang has such a long history. Um, and I just thought they deserve like something special. You know, they've got 40 years plus publishing going on. Image Comics just released the Megaton Archives, which reprints the um, first 8 anthologies that Gary published, featuring Megaton that include, you know, this early Eric Larson art and that Rob Liefeld stuff. So I think that, you know, I'm hoping that people are as excited about that as I was, because I thought it was like really cool. It's the first time they've collected all that stuff, and it's historically relevant. But like you said, like the content's like really amazing. Like Gary Carlson, I keep saying over and over again, but working with him very closely on this project, he is such an underrated artist or writer.
Hmm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He really understands how to tell a comic book story, and you know, anytime I've ever run into a hiccup with how to make the characters act properly or work, like instantaneously, he knows how to fix it. And I'm just been continually impressed by him and cannot believe that he doesn't have like more accolades in this industry. Like,
Yeah.
these guys deserve mad respect for the tremendous output they've been able to
Yeah.
accomplish over the years, you know?
Yeah. They have a lot. I mean, their library is quite large, and you know, it's funny because, like I said, I've talked to both of them before. I've had them on the show, and I could have gone longer with them. You know, there are things I want to talk. Like you were just saying, how Gary really knows how to work a story, and that's something, you know, I find when I look at the comics. I'm really, you know, into them. Like, I would love to sit down with Gary and just pick his brain about, you know, storytelling and how he writes these stories. Because, you know, I write comics. You said you've written comics. You know that sometimes it could be a difficult thing, but when you're constantly writing in different eras and to be able to tell that story, you know what I mean? Like, he's writing an homage to the 60s. Oh, this one's into the 80s. This one's into the 70s. He's jumping around. And the storytelling was different in each era. You know, I think it just, you know, speaks to how talented of a man he is to be able to do that.
100%. Like, before I started this, like, I had never read the Berserker miniseries, and Gary sent me a few of the issues, and I was freaking blown away. Once again, not only by the art, because I'm an artist at heart,
Yeah.
so it's always going to be about the art for me, but just like how great the story was, and like how, like, it's just like a 70s sci-fi like masterpiece, and it's just perfection, and just like, yeah, I don't get it. Like, yeah, he's just, and he's like so humble. Like, he would never ever like admit to even being like a decent writer, I don't think. And he's just like I said, like vastly underrated. Like, I just like really enjoyed, like, for example, like, okay, so Ultiman, like one of my favorites, because I love Superman, so I'm immediately drawn to that sort of analog to begin with. But you know, he's like, the twist that he puts on these characters is just like so freaking interesting. Like, it's not just good enough that you know, he's their version of Superman, but he's also from Earth, which I just think that's so fascinating, because I think that's like the heart and soul of Superman is he's a strange visitor from another planet, right?
Yeah.
But Ultiman is from Earth, so it's like, so how do you approach this sort of, you know, hero with godlike powers as an Earthling? You know what I mean? I don't know. I just love little nuances and touches like that that permeate the whole, you know, Big Bang mythos that is just beyond fascinating. Like, it's so good.
Let me ask you. I mean, you're doing this project. You spoke with, you know, Gary. How did the project come to be? Did you just say, "Hey, Gary and Chris, I love your comics. I want, you deserve, you know, your books deserve a tribute. I want to do it." Is that how it happened, or how did this come to?
Okay, so in a nutshell, basically, you know, I'm a cartoonist, I'm a comic book artist. Um, you may have mentioned this before we started recording, but like you, my YouTube channel started during the pandemic. Everybody was suddenly filled with all this free time. I was horrified, obviously, as many people were, like, and comics have always been a source of comfort for me, and sort of came back into my life as a comfort to help me through the pandemic. I had been wanting to do a YouTube channel as an actor and a comedian and a comic book enthusiast. I sort of discovered the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel, and
I love that channel.
they did a lot of like flip through comics. And this is sort of also coinciding with my sister sending me a bunch of my old comics from my dad's attic in Ohio. And so, given my love of art, my artistic background, and sort of my lifelong love and knowledge of comics, I started doing like reviews and flip through videos of old comics. It turned into, you know, news and interviews. And I luckily, through, you know, my dalliances in comic books through the years, I've able to develop and maintain friendships. And you know, I started interviewing people for my channel. And well, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself, because because we, you know, doing like this my YouTube channel and being a fan of Cartoonist Kayfabe, like, I discovered certain fan projects that other people were doing, like Image Grand Design, which was a big one. It was sort of like, you know, Ed Piskor and Jim Rugg and Tom Scioli had done X-Men, Hulk, and Fantastic Four Grand Design consecutively, and so they sort of made this bizarre call to arms to their fan base to make like an Image Comics Grand Design. So, because of these cartoonists having this rare opportunity to be off work because of the pandemic, they sort of all made it happen. And I was just like sort of super impressed by that as an outsider. And one of the sequels to that was like a book called an anthology called Darkest Image, which was less conceptual and more of like a fan fiction kind of free for all. And I contributed a couple of stories to that, and I wound up like coloring. Suddenly, I'm a colorist. This cartoonist, Brian Payne, who I love his art. He's very much in the same vein of like like a Frank Miller or what do you call it, Dave Sim, or this like sort of like underground cartoonist, but very like esoteric and sort of whatever. And so we worked together. Like I colored some of his stuff, and it was like amazing. It was like such a great collaboration. I had such a great time with it. And he knew I was looking to like draw some things. And he also was a longtime Big Bang fan and knew that Gary Carlson had a history of like mining artists and looking for talent and blah blah blah. I mean, that is like his, one of his secret powers is like harvesting talent. If you look at like the people he's worked with, the aforementioned, Eric Larson and Rob Liefeld, and throw in Angel Medina and Butch Weiss, and even Chris Samney drew, an early Whiz Kid story, and now he's doing like, I mean, if you don't know who Chris Samney is, you should turn off the channel right now. But so he suggested that I contact Gary Carlson, to draw something for him, which I did, and Gary was like so open to it. We kind of got to the script stage, and I just like, let me tell you, like as an artist, I don't know if you've ever worked with the writers and stuff, but it ain't easy sometimes, you know what I mean?
Oh, I know.
And it didn't quite gel the way I was hoping it would, and it just sort of like fizzled out. But it was nagging at me. I was like, God, I'm an idiot. Like, I can't miss this opportunity to work with the great Gary Carlson. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? Oh, sorry.
It's
And so it was always in the back of my mind. And then cut to the pandemic. Cut to me like doing my channel and like transforming it. And I wanted to interview people. And Gary was like one of the first people I wanted to talk to, given his history in comics. So I'm talking to him, and he's talking about the history of Big Bang. He's talking about how it started with these Megaton annuals that turned out to be like 64-page anthologies. And I'm thinking, oh, I love that idea. That's so cool. And then he's telling me how, even though he's had a great publishing history, like they've been sort of doing the print on demand at Indie Planet for the past few years. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it's like, I feel like he deserves more, like something more substantial, like physical copies, like some actual publishing. Big Bang has so much like freaking street cred. And just like, I always say it's the best kept secret. And one of my low-key missions here is to make it not the best kept secret. I want everyone to know how amazing freaking Big Bang is. And they are. So, and also, like the publisher of some of those fan projects is Eli Schwab with Cosmic Lion Productions, who is publishing our Big Bang anthology here. And he did this book called Ghost Agents with Robert Jerome, which is sort of like this 60s spy flavored kind of anthology with all these great, very art focused. It's treasury-sized. It's actually newsprint. It's a gorgeous book. They just completed another successful Kickstarter campaign, and they've done several. And his idea was to do Kickstarters, so as a small indie publisher, they could actually pay the artists and make it part of the Kickstarter, which I liked that because that was also part of Gary's initial publishing plan that impressed me. You know, he's working a full-time job doing whatever. His wife is like giving her blessing and being like, okay, yeah, you can publish independent comic books. But he didn't feel right, you know, asking artists for free work. And so he's paying them like $20 a page. You know, in the 80s, I'm sure it's still not a lot of money. He lost a lot of artists to Marvel and DC, but I think that's a good problem to have. So, coupled with like the Ghost Agents, Cosmic Lion, Eli Schwab, sort of, you know, format of like paying your artists and doing this thing, I thought that was a good idea. So I thought, wow, like I could do this like great treasury size because I'm in love with those. Like like I said, I love art, and so the bigger the art, the better. And like I feel like I have a pop art aesthetic, so I kind of wanting to bring that to it. So the book is very art focused, and I just wanted to do like a new sort of anthology that was more or less like a tribute and kind of a love letter to Big Bang, and also give like some of the really talented artists that I know like an opportunity to sort of shine on a project that has a little bit of validity above like a free fan project in a way, you know what I mean?
And
So
I'm
then
sorry.
I pitched it to Eli. He said yes. I pitched it to Gary, and he said why not, and here we are. So
That's awesome. And first, let me just say to who is it, Daniel Goodwin. Thanks for. So you're very welcome. I'm a huge indie fan and indie creator as well. So I'll do anything to support indie comics. All the artists that you reached out to and the writers and everybody, were they fans of Big Bang going into it, or did any have no knowledge and they're discovering a new world for themselves to play in?
it's so interesting because I have a great mix. Like there are a handful of artists like who are huge Big Bang fans. Brian Payne, the person who put me in touch with Gary or suggested it initially, is a initial longtime Big Bang fan. There's an artist named Evan Quiring who does his own indie comic called Murder City Devil, and he was a Big Bang fan, so he gave us this really great 6-page story with Badge and teaming Badge and Ladybug against Pink Flamingo that I love. It's like so good. It's a very classic superhero story. So there are like people on the book who are fans. There are people who are aware of it. Like I think that like our cover artist Jim Rugg, who I just feel like is such a great, perfect cover artist. Like I think that with his popularity of his Cartoonist Kayfaber channel, plus the fact that like he's a great cover artist and he's like very like thoughtful in what he does. And of course, he was like sort of peripherally aware of Big Bang in a way. I think I don't know for sure like what level of fan he was, but um, you know, like I think like I'm trying to think who else is like working on this book, but I just think like if you're a comic book fan like we were, like, you know, in the 90s or whatever, you sort of know Big Bang in a way, and this is like the big push for Big Bang. But other than that, like you know, like I got Nick Cagney. I got a mix of artists that, like, to be honest, like, and Stephen Wilcox, he's another artist who is a Big Bang fan. He's actually drawing a 3-page story, that Night Watchman story that's written by Chris Ecker, which I extended, you know, an invitation to Gary and Chris to participate as much or as little as they want to in this book, because it's them. Like it doesn't exist without them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I want their presence here, and so to have Chris be able to like write that story, and he freaking did the layouts for it, which I'm going to include in like the sketchbook section of the book. And they're amazing. Like I could almost print them like just the way they are. So I'm happy to have that. But Gary has had some health issues in the past year, and so I didn't really want to burden him with deadlines and things like that. Thankfully, he's doing well now. Uh, but there are a couple of things that, like in the Megaton Chronicles, he reprinted a couple of things that I'm happy to be able to use. There's like a 2-page Terminator story that Gary actually wrote and drew as like a college student as part of like some writing course he was taking, that the assignment was to make comic books. And Gary, like, I think is one of those, this is like a glimpse into probably why he's such a great writer, is because he is an artist at heart and wanted to be an artist, and like, drew some things. So he thinks visually. Obviously he's not as proficient as like a Chris Ecker or something, but he made these 2 pages and they're historically relevant, and I'm going to color them and include them in the book, so they'll be seen in color for the first time. And then there's also an amazing pinup by Don Simpson that he did in 1985 and sent to Gary. It's Gary's Megaton character meets Don's Megaton Man character, so obviously it's like humor based, but I sort of have a history of reviewing Don Simpson's Megaton Man comics, and as a fan, I've colored his art a lot, and he's like posted them, and we've been kind of wanting to do something together, and he gave my blessing to color this pinup and include it in the book. So I'm happy to have something by Don Simpson in there, because he has a history with Big Bang and Image Comics and indie comics in the 80s and 90s. So.
Nice. Well, why don't we take a look at the Kickstarter now? I'm just going to share it onto the screen here. And we'll just kind of go through a little bit of it. And this way, those watching, that are going to back, know what they get and a little bit more about it. So first off, who's the artist on the main picture here?
So that is Nick Cagnetti, like one of my new favorite cartoonists. Yeah, like I peripherally, once again, like it's all peripheral for me. I need to take my blinders off, but so like I've been hearing Pink Lemonade. Oh, that's the book you need to read. Like it's so good. Don't sit on it. Don't miss it. Pink Lemonade. So suddenly I'm like, okay, Pink Lemonade. I'm gonna check it out. Well, then maybe I saw Nick like say something like, hey, if y'all want to review my book or whatever, and then like as a YouTuber, I'm always looking for new stuff to look at. So I finally acquired some Pink Lemonade and immediately fell in love with it. He's got this great, like, sort of retro style. It's very, like, Mike Allred influence, very sort of 60s. But he also has, like, this beautiful color sense. It is so gorgeous. Like, I'm telling you, if you have not read Pink Lemonade, it is, like, one of my favorite comic books. It's so great. The protagonist is amazing. The message is good. It's just, like, great comics. So whatever, I'm going to tell a great story about this piece we're looking at, though. So I wanted Eric Larson to draw this, and he had just gotten over COVID and said no. And so I wanted another great artist to do it. And I sort of wanted Nick to do the cover initially, but then, because I don't know, I was like, I had all these feelers out, and Jim agreed to do the cover, and then, but I still wanted Nick Cagnetti, and I wanted something special, and he gave me something freaking special, because that is like one of the coolest images of Berserker I've ever seen. It's for our centerfold, which, by the way, in case I failed to stress, like the book is going to be treasury-sized, so it's large. It's very art-focused. Like, as an art director and editor, like I wanted to take a full advantage of the treasury size, so this is such a great way to do it. Like this centerfold is going to be beautiful. It's also offered as a poster incentive for the Kickstarter. So if you want a big, gorgeous Nick Cagnetti Berserker poster hanging on your wall.
I was going to ask, how big is the poster going to be?
that is a good question. I guess it's going to be about at least like, I mean, the book itself is like 13 by 8. So this is going to be like probably 16 by 20 or something like
Okay.
that.
Well,
I would imagine. I'm going to have to like double check with my Eli Schwab of Cosmic Lion Productions is like the
yeah.
one doing like, it is like, that is my Achilles heel, like the fulfillment, sort of like the Kickstarter, like formatting kind of thing. So, but it's going to be a big, gorgeous poster. I know I'm going to have one. I'm going to have all these posters. There's a poster available for Jim Rugg's cover, plus Jim Rugg's cover. Well, we'll get to that next because I think it's the next.
Yeah, I will say between those two, those are two fantastic pieces of art. And the reason I'm asking is because I still haven't decided what tier I'm gonna back yet. I will be backing one of these tiers, and I feel like I need one of these posters. And I'll tell you what: the wall behind me, although I love it and is very inspirational to me, I want it to become a wall of indie art. Indie art that I support, whether it's through Kickstarters, whether it's through friends, whatever. I'm going to change that whole back wall to indie art, and I would love to have a piece from this up on the back wall. So every time people watch my show, they'll see that, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a gorgeous piece, and now we're coming up. We'll just go through it before we go through what the available rewards are. Now
So
this cover, yes,
this like, oh my gosh, like this makes me so proud and happy. Like you
yeah,
have no idea. I just, like I said, like I became a fan of the Cartoonist Kayfabe. It's interesting because I was a fan of the show for quite some time, and then I was like, you know what, I should check out like some of the comics that these dudes do to see if they're like have anything to back up like what they're talking about. And I really became a fan of Jim Rugg. Like I love his alternate covers, and it's so funny because it's the weirdest revelation, but I think it's been like such a key to making this book like just elevate in a way that like was such a good inspiration for me, is because if you look at Big Bang in general, it seems like it's an homage company. You know what I mean? It's like they have their Ultiman is their Superman, Night Watchman is their Batman, Venus is their Wonder Woman. So it seems like it's nothing but homages, or I hate to use the word knockoffs because they're not knockoffs, but and so I thought Jim Rugg would be such a great cover artist. He seems like such a great force in indie comics, but he does like whole grand design and stuff. So he's kind of a good bridge between indie and mainstream, and he has a real reverence for all of it. But plus, he's like so thoughtful and so amazing, and so like able to execute like such a great idea. So my initial pitch to him was I wanted sort of, because I was in love with like Art Adams like group shots with the like stark white background, like Plastic X-Men and like numerous other group shots, covers that he did. So I was like, I kind of want like an Art Adams group shot, but I don't want a direct homage, because ironically Gary Carlson does not like homages. Like he didn't want a bunch of like homage covers and blah blah blah. And to be honest with you, I feel like working on projects like Darkest Image, and looking at like Image Grand Design and a lot of those fan projects, homages like have been done to death. You know what I mean? If I never see an homage to Action Comics #1 or Giant Size X-Men #1, I will be fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it was freeing in a way. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, thank God, I don't have to worry about that, because I just think like it's too overkill, and so I'm telling Jim Rugg, like the homage master, I'm like, I want this, but I don't want an homage because Gary doesn't like homages. or maybe even before I told him, to be honest with you, just because it's been so kismet on this project. Like, he came to me and he's like, I don't want to do an homage. I want to do an original cover. And like, I heard the angel choral music. I was like, yes, thank God. And so he was very inspired. He loved doing this cover. He said that it gave him an opportunity to draw superheroes, which he doesn't have that chance very often, which was so weird to me as I told him, because I was like, you know, it's like, you did Hulk Grand Design, but then I'm like, well, wait a second, Hulk is like actually not really a superhero, so he's more of a monster. So, you know, this gave Jim a chance to do these classic superheroes, and he came up with this baseball card sort of thing, which, you know, baseball cards are obviously of a certain era and like nostalgic, and I think it fits perfectly with Big Bang. And then he came up with the idea of turning them into, you know, he's like, you know, you should make them baseball cards for the Kickstarter incentive. And once again, the choral music started playing, and I was like, obviously genius, right? I mean, who doesn't want a set of Big Bang trading cards, you know, drawn by Jim Rugg? So that is one of the incentives that I'm particularly excited about. So I just think this cover is great. It's going to make a beautiful poster. He captured all the likenesses amazing, and they look beautiful.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous, and this is like you said, this is another one that's going to be the poster, and this is one I wouldn't be able to decide on. I think they're, you know, I think it's fantastic. And here we go. We got another cover here.
And here, this is the beautiful Carrie Callan cover. Like, I'm so happy. This makes me happy for 3 specific reasons. Number one being that it's absolutely gorgeous. Like, it's a perfect golden age tribute. The characters have never looked better. They look so good. I just love it. It has the flavor of sort of you know, a cover from that era without being a direct homage. So success there. One of my good friends and cartoonist, Sam J. Royale, who I mentioned earlier, who did the Shutterbug story, mentioned to me that Carrie Callan would be good for the cover when I was sort of looking for a cover artist. And I was like, who the hell is Gary Callan? And so I looked him up, and I, of course, knew who he was without knowing his name. I think one of his most famous images that people would recognize is Wonder Woman, like, opening her shirt like Superman, and she just has a bra on underneath. So he's, like, very known for his satire and humor work. He's a Mad Magazine artist. But he does all these amazing sort of, like, satire farces of like Batman and like, you know, that era. So I approached so Sam said I should ask him, and I asked him, and like I don't know why everyone's saying yes to me on this, but he said yes. And the other part that made this magical for me was that Gary Carlson, come to find out, has been a fan of Carrie Callan for a long time. And has really, really wanted to work with him, like even reached out a few times, and it never happened. So the fact that I was able to facilitate that and give Gary sort of the dream come true of seeing Gary draw his Big Bang characters, like, that is worth it to me. Absolutely. And this will also be available as a poster as well. And it's so beautiful. And, you know, just looking at these images, like, that also gives me pride to know that these will be part of the Big Bang mythos and history. And I helped make that happen. It's like, when I'm dead, people will be able to Google Big Bang. And if this image pops up, like, my work here is done.
Oh, that's good. I mean, listen, that is a beautiful piece. When I, you know, obviously I've liked all 3 that, you know, we've gone over, and the other 2 just, you know, the top image just really cost me. But this one right here really, when I saw it, just the coloring, like you said, it's a really great throwback to the golden age of comics there. And, you know, this one just screamed fun to me.
Well, like I said, I'm like a pop artist, and I'm like, I've become sort of this colorist in a way, but I'm known for like my really bright, like almost annoying colors, and that has been like my battle cry throughout this: bright, beautiful colors. I actually. Uh, Luckily, I feel like I'm a pretty good editor and pretty agreeable because I'm very specific about what I want.
Yeah.
Only one artist keeps turning in really dark art, and I keep making him brighten it up. So, like, when I'm saying I want it to be bright and beautiful, I'm not lying. As a matter of fact, like, the Ghost Agents book that Cosmic Lion did that we were talking about was printed on newsprint, and I thought that that would have been perfect for Big Bang, especially with the nostalgia angle. But after talking to people like Jim Rugg, who is a like amazing at printing and process and blah 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 whatever, I decided to go with like a more white, sort of thicker paper because
Mm.
the problem you run into with newsprint is you can sometimes see through the paper,
Yeah.
and sometimes it gets a little muted. So this is, like I said, this book is so art focused. And the artists have really brought their A game. Like, especially after finding out that Jim Rugg was doing the cover, everyone's like, "Oh my god, I need to like step up my game," and boy did they. So like, especially like not only I just want to make sure I honor them by like showcasing their art in the best light possible. And that was also a draw for some of the artists, like Jim Rugg himself. He's like, when you told me it was treasury-sized, he's like, that kind of made me want to do it more because it's like an artist's dream, like a bigger canvas to showcase your art.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, but I should also point out that not only did Carrie give us this gorgeous cover here, but he did a sublime 2-page Dr. Weird story inside, and it is so killer. It is so funny. It is so great, and we all love it, and it is so amazing. And I cannot wait to share it with the whole world.
That's great. That's great, man. He's a character I really enjoy too. And that's the black and white version of.
Yeah, I cannot wait to, like, I'm so happy to, like, as a collector, and like, this is like, I feel like if I die, like the day after this comes out, like I want this to be exactly the book that I intended to make, and it has to
Yeah.
have like a sketchbook behind the scenes. And this is like Nick Cagnetti's like black and white. Like I was just dying, like having him, like because I'll also include like I gave him the tiniest little thumbnail. I think that has also served this project well since I'm an artist myself. It's like I've been able to like really convey to everybody like what I want and what I see, and be able to work with them and have it come together. Like I gave Nick this tiny little like thumbnail, and like he freaking nailed it, and just like laid in with the detail in the crowd, and just like captured every essence of this character that is just so beautiful. And his color palette is just like otherworldly. Like
Yeah. Definitely. Wow. Yeah.
and this I say every piece, every piece you pull up, I'm gonna say this is my favorite piece. Okay, so here we go. This is my favorite piece. But this is like another example of like the reach of this book. So there's this amazing up and coming indie artist called Marty Keene, who is sublime. He's like the freaking Bill Sienkiewicz of our generation. His style is so guttural and visceral and almost ugly, but grotesquely gorgeous in a way. He, I, once again, I found him through the Cartoonist Kayfabe community. He was looking for people to review his books, and he sent me a grip of his like superhero comics, which are amazing. They transcend all kinds of genres. He does noir, he does superheroes, he does aliens, he does horror, and just amazing. So, and then he did this bootleg Spider-Man that the Kayfabers reviewed, which is disgustingly amazing and just like the most hilarious, like great comic. You speak of indie comics being so good and how much you love them.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is like something else. And so I asked him for a pinup, and you know, Gary sort of gave this like mantra of not changing stuff or being too crazy. But I told Madi, because with all my artists, like I went to them because I knew they would give me what I wanted. You know, I was a
Yeah.
fan, or I saw something in their art that I thought would work well with whatever project, like character I put them on. And so I asked Madi to, you know, give me a pinup, but I wanted him. I wanted him, you know. And I sent him about. Gary was like so generous. He sent like me like an endless catalog of like PDFs for research from me and my artists.
Yeah.
And I sent Madi like these PDFs, and like literally like 2 days later, he sent me this most amazing pinup, which is horrifying at the same time, but it like nails so many aspects. And I was very nervous to send it to Gary because it seems a little extreme. I mean, he did rip Ultiman's face off after all, but Gary like loved it and got it, and that sort of like gave me relief to know that I felt like I was headed in the right direction, or at least I had something here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so, like I said, we have like this sort of very deep, like indie sort of like artists working on it. But then we have like more mainstream people like Jim Rugg and Gary Carlson, and like very classic superhero stuff. Um, like, like honestly, like this book is
Yeah.
tremendous. There's another artist named Barry Tan who's like, oh no, well, I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself because I do
It's
think this.
okay. It's okay, man. I mean, you're excited, and that's what's important.
Here's the Don Simpson Megaton Man versus Megaton pinup that I colored that we're happy to include. I mean, that's from 1985, and like I'd never seen it until it was in the Megaton archives, and it was in black and white, and so I just thought it deserved some color. And I'm known for my Technicolor yawns and my bright ass colors, but I used restraint on this because I felt like Don Simpson sort of deserved the respect of that.
Mhm.
But so I'm happy to have that in there. I wish, like I said, like every page in this book almost could be a poster. So I almost wish we had that as a poster too. But okay, now I can talk about Barry Tan. There's amazing artist Barry Tan, who's actually on the radar of Jim Rugg and Ed Piskor on what do you call it, Cartoonist Kayfaber. He did his own indie comic. I met him through like the fan projects, like The Darkest Image and The Grand Design and stuff like that. But he is amazing. He's very much like sort of in the same vein of Jim Rugg, because while he has his own style, he's kind of known for like being able to sort of mimic other styles. And he gave us this gorgeous berserker like right here that's very influenced by sort of like Japanese like sumo wrestlers, and like that's even his name in Japanese above the logo. And I don't know, it's just like, and like how is this, looks like a Hulk like planet movie poster or something. Like it's so good.
Yeah.
Like so he was supposed to do like 2 pinups. He did this in a Dr. Weird. And he wound up doing 6 altogether. So, but that's the kind of enthusiasm for this book. A lot of people, because I had about 3 months, because like I'm not a patient person, so I'm like, this isn't going to be my life's work. Like I want to do this anthology, and I want to do it in a way that it can see the light of day, and I can collect my Eisner Award and next year. Like so but I wanted it to have substance too. So like I was like, okay, so I want a pinup or a 1 to 6 page story, depending on how fast you are, how much time you have, what your commitment level is here, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people like were very realistic. I think as an editor, you should be very conscientious and listen to people, what they can give you. Like, don't think you're going to get 10 pages from somebody when you're going to get to manage your expectations. So we figured it all out. And half the artists, like, because like I was very like I didn't want them to overcommit. Like, do not tell me you're going to give me 10 pages because I will be on your doorstep, like the day it's due. And so, but a lot of the artists like started with less commitment and like out of love and enthusiasm for the project we were developing together, like gave me more. So yay us, right?
That's great. I mean, listening to you talk about the artists and how much you're passionate about this project, passionate about Big Bang Comics, I have no doubt that this is going to turn out to be an amazing product, and everyone's going to love it. So let's take a look here on the side at the rewards. So the first one obviously is a digital format. Now let me ask you a question, though, just for those who are thinking of going even just for this tier, because every dollar helps. Are things like, let's say they wanted the posters, are those add-ons available at a digital tier, or are they just part of tiers as we go down further?
I don't think they are available. I mean, like, unfortunately, I'm like the wrong person to be talking to. Like, I partnered with Eli Schwab, who is the publisher. He's been handling the Kickstarter. He just added a bunch of add-ons today. I don't know if they're visibly available through this, but Chris Ecker sent a bunch of original art that we have.
Nice.
Gary Carlson is signing some Big Bang and Megaton comics. Evan Quiring, who I think I mentioned, who did the Badge Ladybug story, is offering his original art as an add-on. So hopefully these are all being put on. I do love the idea of I feel like you should be able to get the poster even if you just wanted the digital version. So I mean, yes, Eli, if you're watching, please let's add that. Sounds good. I'm open to all kinds of suggestions. I've never done a Kickstarter before. I've been incredibly nervous about this. A Big Bang has not done one before, and I want this to be like the huge success that I think it should be and deserves to be. I mean, Jim Rugg's freaking Octobriana Kickstarter did like $94,000, and Jim Rugg probably wasn't even born when Big Bang started. So give us your money.
It's funny you mentioned about being nervous about doing this. That is the reason I've told this to like everyone he talks to me about Kickstarters. I don't think with my level of anxiety I can handle a Kickstarter. So I am amazed by anyone who puts one on and can get through it, with their mind intact. I could just imagine the stress that goes along with running one of these.
Well, it's like I do have somewhat of a PR background, so that I can't lie. Even as a fan, putting this together, wanting to see the book, I was trying to be a little shrewd and coming up with the proper elements that would make this a success beyond the amazing content. Because maybe people just don't know. It's like if amazing content were enough, Big Bang Comics would outsell Marvel and DC because they're far superior when it comes to content. So.
Absolutely. So now the next one we come up to is $30 for the Jim Rugg cover, and obviously the previous digital tier is in there, and $30 for the Kelly Cowan Chase cover. And now this one here, nice, the Jim Rugg silver package. So this includes the Big Bang comics, the Rugg cover, the collectible trading cards. So what's really cool, in my opinion, about this one is all the trading cards that he. So let me ask you how he worked, and maybe you know this. Did he create the trading cards first, and then he just kind of laid out the imagery Like,
So what it is, and that's like such a great question because um, he did like the art like actual trading card size, and each one is individual, and then he sort of arranged them together to put the cover together because he initially sent me like a rough draft, I guess you would say, where the
mm,
characters were in sort of a different order, and then he's like he rearranged them, having the luxury of the separate trading cards to be able to do that. So he sort of pieced it together that way, and then I believe he probably colored it digitally. I think, yeah.
they look digitally colored. Um, so with the Kerry Callan Golden package, you're gonna get the book, you're gonna get the poster, and the included the rug cover you're gonna get, the trading cards, and the digital copy. It says plus one more, but I can't click on it to find out what that is.
I think it might be just the rug or the Callan cover and the trading cards and the digital copy. Because
Okay.
I think the both covers is more like an $80 tier.
The $80 tier is both covers, and obviously, it says the Big Bang Comics rug cover. Oh, the Kerry Callan cover. Oh, is there more? I don't know. It says three more, but I'm assuming it's the posters and the other stuff there. Now, this is really cool to me. Um, this is the Chris Ecker Bang $100. There's 6 left, and this, I don't know if I can click on it here, but these are copies of the strip for the Night Watchman that he did, who I love. I love the Night Watchman character, and it looks like they are. I'm assuming prints because I don't think he colored them originally, but with some artwork and autograph. Is that correct?
That is correct. So
Okay.
basically, what they are, which is very cool, is on the Night Watchman website.
Mhm.
Because in addition to the BigBangComics.com website, they have like some unique websites for the characters. And on the Night Watchman one, there are like Night Watchman comic strips, and
Mhm.
I think that they're only available online. I'm not sure exactly where else they might have appeared. So basically, these are unique prints. I think he did 25 of them,
Nice.
and he autographed them and did like little unique sketches on them. So I know it's like that's kind of one of those tiers I want myself.
Yeah. Oh wow, that is great. And then the Gary bonus 300, get both covers, the card set, and the Soren of Big Bang comics from Gary Carlson's collection, signed by the man himself. That's
Yeah, so
awesome too.
Gary's signing. As a matter of fact, he just asked me which ones, like if I had anyone specific that he should sign, and I just said like, obviously anything with like dragon on the cover might be more appealing,
Mhm.
or the history of Big Bang, which was like such a huge, great. They did
Yeah.
2 issues within their Big Bang series of the history of Big Bang comics, which is like such a deep dive into Big Bang comics, and such a freaking like another example of like how amazing what Gary Carlson has done with this. He sort of created this history of Big Bang comics based on the history of comics that Jim Steranko did,
Mhm.
and but it's like not only like a history of their characters, but it's sort of like this fantasy history of their publication history, like as if they had been around as long as DC Comics, like in the
Yeah.
40s, publishing comics and stuff, and what comics they were publishing at the time. So it's like so much fun. Like those should be one of the packages. And just like I said, obviously, I feel like Megaton seems like a comic to include in there because I think that those are probably more rare than some of the Big Bang stuff. It's weird because I feel like Big Bang's rare on one hand, but anytime any of my friends or my artists, they're like, "Oh my god, I found research material," but in the dollar bin, you know.
Yeah.
But it is, you know, 90s comics notoriously live in the dollar bin, so.
And then you got the biggest bang for $1,000 here, which is basically everything, um, which looks great. And then the All Gone, the early bird specials, which were just discounted prices of the Jim Rugg or the Kerry Callan books, right?
Right. And there are add-ons now, and I don't know like where they are or how you access them, but it's like original art.
Yeah.
Like one of the coolest pieces is this Chris Ecker drawn Night Watchman splash page that was used as a pitch for a Night Watchman movie that never happened. And it's inked by Jim Roseman, who was a Dick Tracy artist before Joe Staten.
Yeah.
And I actually colored it, so that's going to be included in the book. I colored it very like much to look almost like a black light poster from the 70s. So
wow,
I kind of like that.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
That's kind of, I know it's like, you know, I didn't want to think beyond the initial project because I think that, you know, like whatever you're working on deserves the focus you have at the time. Yeah. But now that I'm getting closer to finishing it, I'm finally starting to have like, okay, this looks like it's going to be a success. So do I want to do a sequel? Like, what else do I want to do? The two main things I want to do right now are a Big Bang blacklight poster book, and then the other one is a Big Bang swimsuit issue. Which I don't know if there's any demand for that, but who knows? If Gary's watching, he probably just like turned it off. I'm just kidding. I mean, who doesn't want to see Night Watchman in a Speedo? I'm just kidding.
Well, you know, that was I'm really blown away by the Kickstarter. I've looked at it before, but sitting and talking to you and going through it, first off, it inspired me to just go and draw right now, which I love because I'm always inspired by these characters. But it just makes me want this in my hand so much faster, you know. And I'm hoping that the people watching, if they haven't already backed it, are going and backing it. A good one. You know, going back because this is something. You're right. This is something people. A lot of people don't know Big Bang comics. You know, they should. I think it's one of those things. Like, you're right. If it was widely published, it would be outselling Marvel and DC. I think the stories are that good. I think, you know, like I said, I've had a love of it for, you know, since the 90s. I think the characters are fun. I think everything about this is just, I don't want to say what comics are missing because everyone has a different point of view on what type of comics they like.
No, you're right. This is exactly what comics is missing.
But it's for fans that grew up in a completely different era that aren't liking what are on the shelves today. This is who this is for. This is a comic made for us. And it's a tribute to everything that Chris and Gary have done that has kept us as fans for so long. You know? So you only got 14 days ago. That's 2 weeks. I have no doubt you're going to hit your goal. I hope you go beyond. You have a backer right here. Very soon, probably this weekend, I'll be making my decision on what tier I'm backing. But yeah, I don't know what else to ask you. I mean, I've had a fantastic time talking to you. I'm excited for you, for Gary, for Chris, for this project. And I can't wait to hold a copy of this in my hands.
You and me both, to be honest with you. I couldn't be happier with the way this is coming together. You know what I mean? It's like the initial idea and spark in my mind. Like, honestly, I have very high, lofty expectations, and this has just blown away and exceeded them by a landslide. Like, I cannot believe how well this has come together, and I'm super grateful to people like you for sharing my enthusiasm and trying to get the word out there, because that is kind of my biggest fear. Is like, I don't think people get how special this is and how amazing it is. Somebody else just did an interview with me, and they put a lot of art, and like just scrolling through it and looking at all the art, it's like I'm blown away. You know what I mean? Not even just as the person who made it sort of come together, but as a fan. Like I said, if I didn't make this book, this is the book I would want to read. This is the book I would want to be handed to 4-year-old me with the cover ripped off. Sorry, Jim. And say, like, this is your gateway to comics. You know what I mean? Like, it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's my love letter to Big Bang Comics, whose foundation is a love letter to comics in general, and I think it shows in every single dot of ink and color in this book.
Absolutely. I like I said, I look forward to seeing. I think I'm going to end tonight. Let's see. Oh, hold on. We got good job, MFT. Keep it up. What's next? Okay, you got something next going on?
We shall see. If this doesn't kill me, there's much more to come. Hopefully more Big Bang. Like Chris Ecker has some ideas, and I've loved working with these guys. And, I have tons of ideas for Eli Schwab if he'll have me again. So I want to keep making more great comics that I want to read.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. It was really not just fun talking to you, but very informative, and hearing the excitement in your voice about this, I just know you got a great project here.
It's the sleeper Kickstarter comic book event of the summer, Michael. I will tell you that. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome.
I'm very grateful to be here and very happy. And thank you to everyone who's contributed so far. It's going to be a huge success, and I thank you. And please jump on if you haven't already, because it's so worth it.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you hang out backstage for a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. I'll be right with you.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thanks again. All right. Well, that was really, really fun for me. I mean, you guys know my excitement I get when I talk about comics, when I talk about animation, but Big Bang is a company I've loved for years. Their books are great. I have both print and digital copies of books. And the digital books I carry with me on my iPad, on my phone, and I travel with them. And they're one of my go-tos. So I'm really a fan of them. I'm really a fan of what they're doing. What Michael is doing is as a tribute to them. I really think, like you said, everyone should be holding this in their hands, So you guys, if you haven't already, please back the Kickstarter. Otherwise, just spread the word for it so that everybody knows about it. There's 2 weeks left, and I see this as a huge success. I wish everybody involved the best of luck on this. And with that, I'm going to be ending it. Don't forget to check out the Wiz Comic on Instagram and Facebook. And I'll be back next week with another guest. Until then, I'll see you later.